think that's what the Brumbies are about. They're tidy and they don't make mistakes. And then they slowly put pressure on you and then they come away with a win. So sounds like the formula for the All Blacks many years ago.
Yep.
He's one of the 6 best wingers we've got. You look at those 6 wingers, would you play him ahead of 5 of them? The answer is no, you wouldn't. I do love the game. I think it's great for society too, for the communities. And that's why last week I voiced my opinion about New Zealand rugby's lack of concentration on the grassroots of the game.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Always a pleasure every single week, and I say that because it is. He's a great old mate. He's an All Black icon. He set up IRANS, the International Rugby Academy, both Australia, South Africa, New Zealand. His whole life has been chasing that oval ball around a paddock, talking about it, analysing it, theorising it. One of the best in the business. We welcome back Murray Mexted Wednesdays. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, Marty, I got called a rugby romantic about 30 years ago, and I don't think anything's changed.
Perfect description, absolute perfect description. And the way you talk about it and the way you used to talk about the game on the commentary as well, it was just, you could feel the enthusiasm. You love this game, don't you?
I do love the game. I think it's great for society too, for the communities that indulge in the game. And that's why last week I voiced my opinion about New Zealand rugby's lack of concentration on the grassroots of the game. And that started way back in Steve Tuesday, and it's carried on, unfortunately, and it's been left to, the rugby lovers of the clubs to run it without getting any support.
Yep.
And, it's got to a stage now where it needs some serious support and some serious marketing as well. I'm sick and tired of hearing soccer results on the radio before I hear rugby results and on the TV. So,
well, it's a national game. It's true. And, without the hardworking good people, I was down south, way down south for Easter weekend. And, I drove past a fair few rugby clubs on the way, and a few of them looking dilapidated down there. I was at Kurau for their 125th a couple of years ago, and the 300 people in that community all packed out of town hall and raised thousands of dollars that night. It's just the kind of thing that this is where it's getting back to. Without the good people, there is no sport. There is no rugby in this country, and it stems from the clubs. You're exactly right. It's not like this isn't known in HQ, Mex, is it? It is known.
Well, it's not rocket science, but sometimes I wonder why. And I'm critical of Q because he neglected that area, and I could see that fading. But he had a lot of other things on his plate as well, of course. So it's a big job that. Heading NZR, big job with lots of challenges, but there needs to be somebody who knows about the base of the game, allocated the role of supporting that base and growing that base again, getting to a stage where, when Super Rugby's on and the All Blacks are playing, the whole country's, fizzing. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get back there. But I say that because I think rugby does a lot of good for people that are involved in it. Doesn't matter whether you're on the field or off the field or an administrator. There's all different types involved in the game. There's no levels. It crosses all parameters, and now with women being involved, it's just completed the circle really in many respects. So I'm a great champion of the game because I see people from totally different walks of life getting together and realising that if we all work together, we'll get a better result.
And
isn't that what life's all about?
Totally, and just from a dumb old fan's perspective, it's all I've ever been is just a dumb old fan. It's one of the few sports in the world where you can go internationally, watch a game and watch your team play, and you can be sitting next to a supporter from the other team. And that's what rugby's got over football. It's a beautiful thing. You're at the World Cup in France like I was, and you can have a beer with somebody in an Irish shirt and then somebody in a Boca shirt, and you can do all of that kind of stuff. It actually brings people together in a way that I don't know that many other sports that do from that perspective as well. That's why I love it.
Thinking of which, I was in California at some stage, and my wife and I decided we'd go along and watch a game of American football. And it was up in San Francisco, actually. And they were strange guys, they had sort of patches on and all sorts of things, some sort of pirate image.
Yep, that's it.
But anyway, it was an absolute classic. Yeah. Really, it was a completely new experience for me because wandering around pre-match was fine, getting ourselves organised, could have been at a rugby game, grabbing a hot dog like you do in the US. Anyway, we're sitting down and the game's about to start. And I think that took an hour for the game to start. And, we're about 5 minutes into the game and some guy next to me lights a joint and passes me the joint. This is an American football
San
game
Francisco, mate.
60,000 people. Yeah, I mean, gosh, what a place. So, no, it is, you could say that about American football. It's probably unique, but rugby is unique. And the thing that stands out to me is, further to what you're saying, it doesn't matter what team you're supporting or where you come from. It's like when you see the teams finish the game and they all shake each other's hands and stop and have a chat, and you can see little conversations where they're laughing and stuff like that, even the losing team, which I don't like a hell of a lot, actually. If a guy on my team lost and he was laughing, I don't think I'd be that excited. But anyway, that's just old-fashioned, I guess. But you can see there is more than just the game, There's more to it. It's the aura. And it's the camaraderie too, So anyway.
Let's get on with it. All right.
Listen, that Crusaders Blues game was a hell of a game.
Wasn't it? Look, and I got enough from that game, and I don't know whether you're going to agree or not. I got enough from that game. At the moment, on the points table, there's still 4 Aussie sides sitting there in the top 6, and it's been like that since I think about round 4. I got enough from that game, even though the Blues have only won 3 out of 9, that on my rankings, I've put them into the top 6. I thought they were good enough to win that game. I thought they dominated just about every single aspect of it, especially the second half. And I looked at that and I thought, the Force and New South Wales are not better teams than the Blues. The Blues are going to go ahead of both of those teams.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you've probably done the figures, but I think the Hurricanes and the Blues will both make the playoffs. And it'll go right up to the wire, though. It'll be the last game in the first round. Till we know the final.
Well, the Blues have got New South Wales at home in that last game, and that could just about be a quarterfinal before a quarterfinal. They've also got the Force at home, Mex, and I think they're going to win both of those games and knock those teams out, but keep going.
So they're playing the Waratahs, are they, in Auckland?
Last game, yeah. Last game.
Yeah, well, they'll win that one. I mean, the only Aussie team that really is going to last the distance is the Brumbies. I said that last week.
You did.
And I think we saw that. We saw how efficient they were, because you'd have to say that Moana Pacifica have made great steps forward, and Artie Severe's a magic man, and I think the fact that he wasn't playing in the weekend didn't help them. But I thought the clinical way that the Brumbies handled that game was really an example to everybody. Now, that's Stephen Larkham. And if you remember back to him, the way he played the game at 9 and 10, I think he was a Wallaby at positions 9 and 10. Now,
right, yeah.
Those guys really run the game with a bit of help from the number 8 if he's any good. But it's really that, that's the action spot. And everything evolves from there. Now, I see him doing that as a coach, which is a bit of a message to everybody, And I'm sure that we'll see Larkham involved with the Wallabies at some stage going forward.
I guess.
But he had that team, he picked the team carefully. The positions, I see guys like Ollie Sapsford, who was one of our graduates, I see they moved him into the midfield, which is probably the way to go. We did that years ago, actually. He came to us as a wing, and we decided he was probably better as a centre. But I think he played second 5 in the weekend, and he's tidy, and he doesn't make any mistakes, and I think that's what the Brumbies are about. They're tidy and they don't make mistakes. And then they slowly put pressure on you, and then they come away with a win. So sounds like the formula for the All Blacks many years ago.
Yep.
But we've become more cavalier about our attitude now than we were 20, 30 years ago. And I think we have to be aware, Marty, too, of the difference of referees. You've got to read the referee. And because he's running the show, it's no good saying we should have won that game. And a classic example on the weekend was the Hurricanes Force.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one team that should have won that game by a country bloody mile, and they didn't. What is this golden point thing? I mean, it's and then you finish the time and it's still a draw.
I know. See, this is what I find so confusing. You've decided. You've decided at the end that after golden point, if it's still a draw, it's going to be a draw. So have either one or two things: either finish at 80 minutes with a draw, or keep bloody playing till there's a win. You can't have can't have both. And I think both teams came out at the presser afterwards and said they were frustrated by it. But you're right, the Canes have only got themselves to blame. The thing that worries me about the Hurricanes, and it's like the Highlanders as well, Mex, when the injuries come, these squads just don't seem to be big enough to cope. The Blues have had a lot of injuries. They're still in the mix. They've only won 3 games. The Crusaders last year bereft with injuries. But I'm just wondering whether New Zealand rugby, whether that's what we're seeing now. 5 teams, is it too many for us at the moment? I mean, because we expect 5 teams to all be really good.
I know what you're saying, but I don't agree.
Okay.
I think there's too many players in a squad. I mean, why would you sub Roygard? Tell me. Someone please tell me, why would you sub Roygard?
Well, you're not allowed to play 80 minutes these days. That's why. That's the only reason I can come up with.
He's the starting test match player. He's a guy that can score tries. He can clear the ball. He's a bloody good halfback. Why would you sub him?
Because the sports scientist says, Mex, here that the stats say that he can't play more than 60 minutes, mate.
Yeah, but that's wrong. I reckon that's fundamentally... Yeah, I shouldn't say this, but there's somebody in that selection panel that's responsible for saying that guy's tired, we'll bring on the next player. Mm-hmm. And is he looking at the big picture? What's he looking at? Or is he looking at is he micromanaging that sort of part of the game? So, yeah, no, I've disagreed with substitutes for a long, long time. I don't think it's necessary, but it's nice to do it, I think, and there is some science behind it. I appreciate that. There's some science behind it, but there's no science behind mental strength. There might be techniques behind mental strength, but there's no science. And that's what your better players express that loud and clear to the whole world. When they're under pressure and when they're under fatigue, they still produce the goods. They drag it from somewhere. They collapse after the game, maybe have a couple of beers, but they drag it from somewhere for that 80 minutes. And those are the great players. So some of those players in that team don't get subbed. But, they're trying to, it's almost like it's a merry-go-round.
Yeah, it's almost like they've actually, a lot of it feels pre-planned, which is what I find so confusing. If a guy's on and he's playing really well, why don't you leave him on? Oh, because this guy's got to get some game time as well. But I agree with you with Roygard. Look, let's pivot and move. We've been discussing all over the last few weeks various All Black positions, and I wanted to get your thoughts finally today on the back 3, and especially with the news that Tele'a's going, which puts Scott Robertson in a position of...
Why is he going, though?
He's going to Japan because he's either going to earn a crap load of money, I would assume, or do you think he's been shoulder tapped and say he's not going to be... I can't imagine him not being picked. He's one of the best wingers we've got, so I just assume, like everyone else...
He's one of the 6 best wingers we've got.
Okay.
I mean, you look at those 6 wingers. Would you play him ahead of 5 of them? The answer is no, you wouldn't. But anyway,
well, is he a first choice? Is he a first choice? So would you still have him in the All Blacks mix this year? Would you be pragmatic about that, or because he's going, do you go, okay, I'm going to cut you loose and I'm going to choose one of the other wingers in your place?
Well, I mean, if you want to be analytical, he's weak on defence, in my view. No, I mean, nobody makes an All Black team by right. You've got to actually perform. You've got to do the business. And is he doing the business week in, week out? Not sure. I don't think so. So, it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
We have plenty of players to take his place. Admittedly, there seems to be more injuries these days, and there seems to be more injured players unable to play for 6 weeks or 7 weeks. And that's probably good management. Probably good medical management. But anyway, I don't know where I was going there, but it doesn't matter.
Well, let's look at 11, 14 and 15. And if Beauden Barrett's starting at 10, then you've got Mackenzie either coming off the bench or you put him at 15. If you put him at 15, that means Will Jordan has to be moved from 15 and he would actually naturally go to 14. I think Caleb Clark's
so you've
probably...
got Will Jordan and Clark, haven't you?
Yeah.
Will Jordan and Clark are your 2 best wingers in the country.
Well, is Jordan better at fullback, though? I think he is.
He is, because he's a great player. He's got great anticipation, and at fullback he gets more opportunity. More opportunity than any other position on the field. Fullback is just a wonderful position. You can sit there and just sort of see the game unfolding, and if you've got uncanny anticipation, you score tries. That is Will Jordan.
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Probably
That
the
is-
best in the world at it, to be honest.
You move him to wing because you want to bring on another X-factor player like McKenzie at fullback, which is a great call, and you bring him on with 15, 20 to go, and he'll cut some capers, and Will Jordan will still finish and score tries. You've got to have finishers. He loves scoring tries. Clark loves scoring tries. You know, those guys are great rugby players, and I'm pretty sure that'll be the lineup for the next All Black Test side.
You think that'll be
I hope
Jordan?
Yeah, I hope Razor Robertson's listening to this.
Do you want? So you would start Jordan at fullback or start him on the right wing?
No, I'd start him at fullback.
Okay. Well, who plays
I'd start
right
him
wing then in
fullback.
that case? If you've got Caleb and Jordan at fullback, who's your right winger? Not Tele'a.
Well, no, I'd actually play Awani there, to be frank.
Move Rico from centre into that position.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
What
because
about
I think-
Sevu?
I
Sevu's
think-
another one. Sorry to interrupt, but Sevu Reece is there as well. You got him there as well.
Yeah, that's right. And he's a finisher too.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play finishers. You got to field finishers. That's their role. Their core role is to score tries.
And also Sevu Reece
that's-
brings that pace. The Ioane one's interesting, isn't it? Because it's been a subject of debate, and we've talked about this as well, as to he feels like a guy that's trying to play centre. And you saw a perfect example of it against the Crusaders, where when it comes to selecting the right option and giving the pass and setting up the guy for a try, he's not doing that. I think his instinct is a winger's instinct, which is not a centre's instinct. He's had a hell of a lot of games at centre and just doesn't seem to have that vision for me. And I know that...
Yeah, well, I mean, you've just got to look at the results. How many wingers outside him score tries? And not enough, in my view. I don't think he's the Bruce Robertson, Conrad Smith sort of ideal centre who's creative. When it's on, he slices through and scores a try himself or pops it to the guy outside. I mean, he's, and I think Barrett. I see that Barrett's back, so that's good. I assume he's eligible, is he?
Yes, he is.
For the next
Yep.
match. Yeah, he is. Okay.
Yeah, he's a lock.
I mean, that's sort of
he's in. Yeah.
that grows the backline, and the other guy that's come back that no one seems to have talked about and spoken about is Proctor. Now, Proctor's been the heir apparent centre for a couple of years now, and he is a great centre. He reminds me a little bit of Conrad Smith, actually, a little bit, but he's quicker, actually, than Conrad. And I reckon he's pushing hard for that centre position, even though he's only played one game since he's back from injury. But he'll play a few more, and with Geordie inside him, it's looking like a pretty strong team, Marty.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the great thing about Super Rugby as we go along. I mean, it's not just the teams that are playing. We're all looking at it going, who's going to be there for the All Blacks? Final question. Are the Crusaders and the Chiefs your two finalists already? I know that we've got another 5 or 6 rounds to go, but are those two teams head and shoulders above the rest, or are they just the most consistent mix? I can't answer this question myself. I keep thinking they keep winning, but neither of them look to me as though they're blowing anyone else away, but they keep winning, those two teams.
I think that's the great thing about Super Rugby at the moment, and we are hearing lots of people passing this comment. It's a great competition. Anyone can beat anybody, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. So, it doesn't really matter, does it? The two teams that deserve to be in the final will probably get there. I mean, I've got one comment to make, though, and I started talking about it before, but we never finished for some reason. We moved off. Off track, off piste. But anyway, I'm looking at the difference between Australian referees and New Zealand referees. Now, New Zealand referees are better. And I'm not being a Kiwi and I'm being patriotic or anything like that. That's bullshit. I want all referees to be fantastic. But New Zealand referees feel the game more. I'm sure of that. And Australian referees, they're too officious.
You think so?
There's a bit of show pony stuff going from a couple of them. And there's others that are sort of, I'm going to make that call, irrespective of whether I'm right or wrong. Yeah, we saw that in that game. We saw that in that game, the Crusaders Blues. So there's you've got to adjust your game plan to the referee. I'm pretty sure of that. I know we tried to loosen up the laws to allow the game to flow more, which was a hell of a good idea, but I'm not sure those Australian referees bought into it.
Okay. All right. I like Angus Gardner. I think he's a good ref. I think what I like about him is I just think he keeps control of the game. The game never seems to get out of his control. I just don't like these referees that are constantly looking upstairs for somebody else to make the decisions for them. I want the guy on the field to be that guy. Old school.
I think there's a happy medium between those two, though.
And that's a New Zealand ref.
One man's autocratic. He's running the show. And he might be talking and using Christian names and stuff like that, but he's autocratic, and then the guy that passes it on to the touch judges and that, or what do you call them, assistant referees, he's not prepared to make the big call. So there's somewhere between those two. That's what we want for the game, for the future of the game and the good of the game.
This is the DSPN.